Alright, carb's installed. Fits good. Can't see down through there because it slides in. But it bolted up just fine. It indexes good. I know it looks like it's downhill, but the front end's actually slightly downhill on this thing. And watch out for the mosquitoes. Evil little buggers. When you're working on these things outside, they'll eat you alive. No matter what you do, they're going to eat you alive. Anyway, I got to pull the fuel tank and run me a new fuel line. I'm going to come out under here and down. But I'm going to come off the tank, run it through here, probably zip tie it to the intake right there, and then plumb it in right there. So let's go get the fuel line, unhook the tank, and the reason why I'm not leaking fuel is because I put a pair of needle nose vice grips on the fuel line so it wouldn't leak. Okay, well, I got my homemade intake done and got it mounted. I had to slot these in narrower just a little bit for it to work. I guess my template was off a little bit, or my drill bit or something was off. I don't know. Anyway, I slotted them in, and after I got it welded up, I did a light coat of JB Weld over the whole thing just in case there was a pinhole somewhere. I sealed it up, hit it with some sandpaper real quick. Nothing major. I don't care if it's pretty, I just want it functional. And I don't want to spend too many hours on this thing, because then it just won't be worth the build. But now I'm ready to mount my carburetor and see how that goes. Okay, well, I'm at the finishing stages of my intake, but I've got to give a shout out to Rogue Exploration. He's the one that supplied the Miller welder. When I went up to Illinois to pick him up, sorry, I got the hiccups. Anyway, I went up to Illinois to pick him up, and he gave me a Miller stick welder, which that's what I'm going to use to make this intake, since my Harbor Freight MiG is crapped out. Anyway, big shout out to Rogue Exploration. If you guys have not seen his channel, you really need to check him out. Sorry I got the hiccups again. But anyway, I don't have a spare helmet so I can weld and show you guys how it's done. But I'm going to stick weld this intake together, index it with a carb, and send it. So, anyway, thank you again, Rogue Exploration. Sorry I got the hiccups. But hey, it's my day off. So I pulled the gasket off. Now I've got a spring center punch. I'm going to put a divot in each one of the bolt holes and then one in the center. But I don't want to drill the center out to 3/4. I'm going to drill it out to like 5/8. And then whenever I weld the pipe on, which I'm going to weld this side up so I can center the pipe up, and the rest of it will clean up, of course. But I want to drill that out. And we're going to spring punch this one. And not quite center. Spring punch this one. Now we're going to drill out those holes, and then we're going to remove the excess material, and we'll have the block side done. Okay, so what I'm going to do for the other side, since I got the carburetor side done, is I'm working on the head side, and I'm just going to got a head gasket sitting right here. Shake up me some paint. Shoot it. I'll let it dry, and then I'll pull the gasket off. And anything that is clean, I'm going to keep. Anything that is blue, I'm going to remove. And that'll be the other side of my intake. I guess I should have showed you this, but that's what it looks like on the carburetor. So I just find the center of that, punch it, and no, that is not the edge of the carburetor sitting up. I just beveled that a little bit too much on the belt sander. But center punch this between there, and here, find the center punch it, and then I could drill that hole to the inside diameter of this pipe, center the pipe up, weld it on there, and there's half my intake done. Alright, well, I'll get it all smoothed out. Now we're just going to clean it up, flatten it out so I can put a gasket on it, and it'll seal. And this is the same way that I also will square up a head or shave a head or whatever. Same thing, flat surface sandpaper. Same deal. See, I've got a low spot. I'm going to take that out. That looks good. I'll hit the other side. I don't want to do this on a power sander because there's a good chance you can hurt your fingers. If you have a good strong electromagnet, I wouldn't do it with anything other than electromagnet to lock it in. You could do this on a power sander, but I don't have one of those, so we're going to do it this way. Pretty decent. And I'm just using 180 grit cloth back sandpaper. Same stuff I use to do heads and all that. Looks good. Now we're going to set that in the middle. And we can weld that up, and then we'll work on the other side. Probably need to buy me a new wheel for this thing. Alright, well, I got my drill press chuck tightened up and got my 2 holes drilled. Now I can scribe me a template on there. Ooh, boy, brake cleaning hurts when you get it in a cut. Ow. Anyway, I'm going to scribe the outside now and then cut it and shape it for the carburetor side. Okay. No, I'm not going to cut this all the way off with a angle grinder and a death wheel. What I'm going to do is notch it in a line where I want to cut it, and that way it'll be easier for me to start the cut with my Sawzall and a metal cutting blade, because I really don't like cutting steel with a death wheel. The only thing I really like using the death wheels for is for notching a line to start a cut for my Sawzall, or I use them for cutting bolts out and stuff like that. I don't like cutting steel with a death wheel. It's just, if you torque it a little bit, they'll blow up on you. Well, that sucked. Didn't realize I was out of Sawzall blades, so I had to run into town to get me another package of Sawzall blades. It is always something, isn't it? Okay. Do. Come on. There we go. All right. That's a lot safer than a death wheel. And now you can see why I notched it with a death wheel, because it's easier to start the car. Alright, now we're going to flip it around and make the other two cuts. Okay, so here's my pipe. I need to get my chainsaw file out of the bag and clean up the inside of that where it's got burrs. And run me some sandpaper on a dowel rod in there to get all that trash out of there too. But I took it to the belt sander. And yeah, it's not a regular belt sander. It's a wall-mounted vertical belt sander. And cleaned it up a little bit. Took some of the trash off of it. And yes, that's a 3D manual clutch. That's for later. But I'm going to weld that there. Weld this here. After I shape them to the shapes I need on the intake. And I'm going to make it indexable by using the chainsaw file. After I drill holes in it, I'm going to slot one side so I can index it. And then should be good to go. Now I just need to find me a carburetor gasket so I can make a template. Now I decided instead of using a file, I'm going to take a step drill bit to deburr the inside. A lot quicker. I always set up the clutch on my drill to kick out instead of put it on lock. That way if it snags, it'll kick out the clutch instead of twist your arm. There we go. That's deburred. Now, I just take me a dowel rod and I'll run it down in there with some sandpaper wrapped around it and clean up the inside. Okay, I've got a dowel rod. Wrap sandpaper around it. Like so. Use a bench vise to hold the sandpaper. And we'll just polish up the inside real quick. A little bit more. There we go. Now we hit it with some brake clean and it'll be good to go. Oh, I see what I did. Dang, I was wondering what that arc was. Yeah, I got my cord. It melted it. Sweet. I just replaced the cord.